All right, guys. What's going on? Welcome back to another case study. Welcome, Jake.
Cheers, Connor. Good to see you again.
It's absolutely this interview has been way long overdue. I think we've been working at this result for a long, long time, just as all my other case studies. Um, Definitely a few false starts, definitely a few mistakes, definitely a few lessons learned along the way, just as everyone has to experience. Um, I don't know how long we've been working together now. Do you actually remember around roughly the time we've been working together? A little bit over a year?
Yeah, I think it was April last year. I would say just over a year.
Crazy. So around 12 months from basically scratch to get to 10K US a month.
Mm.
So that is the highlight. That is the result. We are talking about New Zealand dollars just before we got on because the offer is New Zealand. We could have talked about 17,000 New Zealand dollars, but that's about the equivalent to the Australian pesos nowadays. So 10,000 US dollars in 30 days. You're living in Bali. So we'll talk about that here in a minute, which is super, super cool. But yeah, super excited to have you on, man. I really want to dive into your story because just as so many people that are trying to crack results in this space, it is really difficult. It's not easy. And even with the right guidance, it's so easy to make mistakes and it's so easy to have setbacks. So I want to dive into all that. But we'll start before, as we do every conversation, before you actually met me and where you got started with making money online. What were you doing before you met me? What were you looking at? Like, what type of things did you explore when it came to making money online? And yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I had a pretty interesting experience up until now. I think not to go too far back, but I was in corporate sales. So I was an SDR for a company in London, and I worked there for probably around like 8 or 9 months. And my job there was literally just a cold call into like IT prospects, like IT directors, C-suite executives. And it was just so like draining. I was like calling people, like being rejected all the time. And it was very strenuous and I really didn't enjoy it. And I always knew that there was another alternative from that. I just wasn't quite sure what it was. But like before that corporate job, during COVID, that my first attempt to make money online was through FBA, like classic, classic FBA. I bought a course. I think it was like £800, and I was learning how to basically sell products online with Amazon, and it went okay. I ended up trying to sell knee pillows. It's like the most random product ever. And
Yeah.
I remember I ordered like 100 from China, ordered them, sold them straight away, and then I ordered
Wow.
like 600 more knee pillows, and then by the time they come, I just got like beaten by my competitors. So I wasted all my money. I think I wasted like 4 or 5K on these knee pillows, and I had like 600 knee pillows, and I didn't know what to do with them. So my first experience of making money online was pretty terrible. I didn't lose that money. I managed to make it back, but it wasn't great. So
Mm.
I I was pretty disheartened by that. I went into that corporate job. I was in sales, and then I wanted to give it another go. I was like, I don't want to do this forever. There has to be another way of making money. And that's when I started to, I think I just saw adverts online, like on Instagram, or I was Googling how can I make money online. And then I saw stuff around sales. And I was like, I'm in corporate sales. Why don't I just utilize the skills that I've learned already in this space of high ticket sales? So then I looked into it further. I ended up buying a course. I bought a course that I think a few people have been through, and it wasn't very good. It wasn't very good
Yeah.
at all. Yeah, but it taught me the what I had to do in terms of like making it in high ticket sales, like trying to find an offer. It just gave me like a kind of loose understanding of what I'd need to do. So I did that, and then I actually got an offer. So I got an offer where I was on a retainer, and I was on a retainer, and it allowed me to leave that corporate job and do this full time. But I was on a pretty low retainer. So I took that retainer, I left to go to Southeast Asia, left my corporate job, and
Yeah.
then I ended up basically working on this retainer, but not making any commission and just kind of living like traveling, but like getting paid to do so. And it was pretty sweet. I was like, this is cool. I get to leave my job, I get to travel. But then when I was in Southeast Asia, I was meeting all these people that were making like 10, 15, 20K per month in the high ticket space. And then that's when I actually invested into you. So that's when I
Mm.
met people in your program, and that's when I was like, okay, I would need to make more than like 2, 3K per month. So that's when I invested in you and trying to find a better offer. So yeah, I started with FBA and then I transitioned to being on like a retainer on like an offer. And then that kind of led me to learning more about it and realizing that there's levels to it if I want to make sort of 10K per month.
Super interesting. And I have flashbacks back to our original conversation that we had on a sales call, if you can kind of call it that.
Yeah.
And it's very much just a very casual conversation from memory, but you were very much unsure of just like this corporate thing is kind of working pretty well right now. Like it's pretty decent. Like I'm making somewhat decent income. I can travel right now, but I'm not too sure if I kind of want to explore it.
Mm.
Was it more the fact that you saw other people doing what you wanted to do that kind of made you kind of push over the line where you wanted to explore this and do something different? Or what do you remember, if anything, like what was it that was the shift that made you want to actually take the jump?
Yeah, I think it was the fact that I kind of had my foot in the door and I realized the potential and the possibility of making money online. And I knew that it was possible, but I did it without really any guidance and any support. So I was like, okay, if I get guidance with this and I have an idea of what I need to do, then there's no reason why I can't like do well in this. So that kind of pushed me and obviously did a bit more research. I actually went through the reason how I came across you actually is I went through like the funnel that a lot of people went go through. And then I got introduced to you and I was like, this guy is so real about it in the sense that like
Mm,
you're not just saying it's easy to get into the space, right? And then I resonated quite well with that. And I was like, okay, let's jump on a call. And then we were obviously talking about what needs to be done and I think one of the biggest barriers for me was like how do I live in Southeast Asia, because my goal, you were like pick a goal and that's what like we need to get, like you don't have to make 10K per month, you can make like 5K a month and live in Southeast Asia, but I can wrap my head around how can I live in Southeast Asia with the time zones, like the time zones just don't work, and I had like such a limiting belief around how can I land an offer that's going to align with the time
yeah,
zones.
remember
But
that.
yeah, it happened okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And for a lot of beginners that are exploring this and that are looking at high ticket sales, there are time zones that work for everybody. I would say primarily, fully transparently, there's more offers in the US from what I've seen. Like a lot of our clients, like if you're watching this in the US, there's a lot of opportunity for you there. Like if you are in the US, honestly, you're playing the game on easy mode, in my personal opinion. Like there's so much more opportunity. It's a bigger market. Like if you're in the US, you should be doing this. There's no reason you shouldn't be. Um, but if you're more like in Australia, UK, typically what I'd say that UK people can work US offers, but more of the time zone, like 3 p.m. to like 12 a.m. For Australian guys as well, they're exploring this. There are still offers that exist out there. I got a ton of clients that are doing very well in Australia, but there's just less offers. So you need to be very
Mm,
calculated on the type of offers you can get, specifically if you want to work in Bali, or Thailand, because that's
mm.
more closer to Australian time zone. Like the offer that you're working on is New Zealand based from memory.
Yeah, yeah. But they have clients worldwide, so it doesn't
Yeah,
matter too much when you open your calendar, which is pretty sweet.
sweet. And like, what type of hours are you working at the moment in Bali?
So at the moment I'm doing 6 a.m. till 3 p.m. So I take calls during that time, and then I just have the afternoon off to do yeah, whatever I want. But technically I could do whatever time I want, but I find that to be the most optimal in terms of like having enough time to relax in the evenings.
Sweet. And we'll expand on what it's been like to travel to Bali and have a bit of that lifestyle as well a little bit later on. But
Mm,
before we go to the glitz and the glam, I always want to explore what it took to get there because it was
mm,
very hard for you, just as it is for all my case study clients to kind of stick it out with this. Wasn't overnight, wasn't 30, 60, 90 days like the marketers say. It was, like a year time frame that really took like you were close to 10K. It's not like you made no money. You were close to 10K, but it's just like with just that little bit of that extra step close, like 1 or 2K shy, 3K shy. You've been making money for a while now, but it took about a year to get to that 10K a month.
mm.
So exploring from when you actually joined the training program, you spent the money with me, you came in, what were the next steps from there? What type of offers did you get? How many setbacks did you have? Like what did you experience going from then to now your current offer?
Yeah, yeah. So the first stages of the high ticket journey is very difficult. Like it's so hard. And the one thing that's just really important to remember is if you just don't quit with it, you just can't lose. And that's the one thing that I just had in my head the whole time. It's just like don't quit, just keep going. And I think it was almost at one point like the sunken cost fallacy where
Yeah.
I'd gone so far now that I just couldn't quit. And it almost worked to my advantage that. But in terms of like when I first started, I was spending a lot of time networking with people, jumping on calls, taking offers that weren't great. I was just trying my best to get on offers, get reps in, because at the start, you're very new. You don't know how to. I had a sales experience from corporate, but still, the whole high ticket space is completely different. So I didn't know how to run sales calls. I didn't know how to do anything related to closing. So when I came on to like offers, it was just a matter of getting the reps in and just keep practicing. And yeah, I just landed a lot of I was on a dating offer for a while and I made okay money. I made enough to like survive. And then I ended up like pivoting to fitness because I was like, okay, if I go on fitness, I get my skills better. But then you realize in fitness, there's hardly any money to be made unless you get on offers. And there's always a question around ethics as well with a lot of these fitness offers. So yeah, I think at the beginning, my strategy was like just get reps, get on offers, get reps in. Don't worry too much about the money, and that will come in later. So just getting reps in, landing different offers, and I think it came to a point where I was like, okay, now I've got reps in. I need to get an offer. And looking back, I probably could have got to where I wanted to go a lot faster if I focused more on the offer than trying to get the reps in. But having said that, getting the reps in is important because if you don't, then your skill level is going to be so bad that you won't be able to perform on the offers anyway. So yeah, I had a lot of setbacks. I even got on offers before where I even got let go because I wasn't hitting KPI. Like I was on a fitness offer, I didn't meet KPI, I let go. That was a failure. There were so many parts in the journey where I was like, this is not for me. I remember I was in Southeast Asia and I was taking calls at 12 a.m. on a fitness offer because it was the only like time that I could get on that because it was US. I was getting up at 12 a.m., which is just nuts. So there's a lot of like sacrifices I had to make. There's a lot of eating shit as it was to get to where I was today, where I can land, where I was able to land a good offer. So yeah,
Mm.
there's just so much stuff that you have to go through. You just have to be willing to realize that it's part of the process and just be willing to accept it is what it is and it will all work out in the end eventually.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think for a lot of guys that are looking at exploring this and looking to jump into high ticket sales, the same thing you have to compare and contrast is if you want to make 10K a month, you have to have a 10K effort and you have to work really hard to get it. Um, the types of income that you're earning now and that a lot of my clients that reach this level now, the the space for opportunity and the ceiling, because there is no ceiling, this is like 10K a month is just the start. Like there's 20 and 30K a month that's absolutely in store now that you've seen what's possible. The comparing and contrast for people to try and earn this income is usually you have to study for 4 to 5 years to get even close to earning this type of income. You have to do years of internship. You have to, work and climb up the ladder in corporate companies, right? It's not easy. Same thing with sales as well, traditional sales. You have to be a BDE, you have to be an SDR. It's not straight to 10K a month. It takes a long time to become an account executive. And a lot of the times, it's not just the results you bring to the table, it's how much experience you have, because that's what these people value a lot of the time. So, in this space, you can bypass a lot of these things and these barriers that a lot of other careers usually put in place that prevent you from actually earning the income that you want. Studying years at university and having years of internship could place you at like six figures a year. But then it might even take you another 10 to get to 200K a year in a prestigious career, prestigious field like an engineer or whatever else. It would take you 10 years to get to that level of earning potential. Whereas in high ticket sales, yes, it's risky. Yes, it's commission only. Yes, it's difficult. But it's a question I want to ask most people that are looking to get into high ticket sales or explore and make money online, which is that which is hardest, which is more risky, right? Traditional path is not always the most safest, although it can look that way. You can lose your job just as you do in high ticket sales. You can make no money. You can do these types of things. It just depends like what type of risk you want to go for, ultimately at the end of the day. At least my general thoughts.
100%, yeah. And what other career can you earn 10K per month within the first year? And it's crazy because I look at how long it's taken me to get to 10K per month, and I think, oh, that took me longer than it should have. But then, like you were saying there, it's like, well, realistically, it hasn't taken you that long. It's taken me a year to get to that. You would never be able to do that in any other discipline. So yeah, it's so true. It's pretty incredible actually how quickly you can make money with it.
Yeah, and that's on top of the other benefits as well, with it, which is like geographical independence, working remotely, and all that type of stuff. But I'm very curious on, you mentioned earlier how you found corporate sales very different to high ticket sales. Now, as of recent, I've actually started working with a lot more sales guys who are in traditional sales looking to transition into high ticket sales space, utilizing their current skills and experience, like you said earlier. But a lot of traditional sales guys definitely come to me. It's a very common concern I hear, which is that, Connor, I have the sales skills. I'm already good at sales. Let me just get a job.
Mm.
From your personal experience, what have you found the differences have been in terms of skills and in terms of navigating the space as compared to your experience in corporate to now? What would you say the compare and contrast differences have been in terms of corporate to high ticket?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is very different. I actually came in with that same mindset when I came in. I was like, I've done corporate sales, therefore, like I don't need to do all this training. I'm far superior than the rest of the people coming into the space, but it's just not true. I think you do have a slight advantage when it comes to maybe like tonality and speaking to prospects on the phone, maybe terminology, things like that. That's where you can have an advantage over some people that have never ever like picked up a phone or spoken to a prospect. So I do think there is a slight
Yeah.
advantage. But then there are it's completely different, right? Because especially as an SDR, you're cold calling, there's it's not commission only. Like a lot of the time you're on a base. So you can take things very slow. Like I remember when I was in a corporate job and I just needed to hit my KPIs. And because you're on a base, the KPIs aren't even that high. It's like $100 a day, which is not that hard to hit. You can hit that within like an hour or two. So it's very different because when you're in like this environment, it's commission only. So you're solely responsible for making money, and that adds an extra layer of accountability on your shoulders. Therefore, you have to turn up as a different person. So it's that whole transitioning from an employee to like a business owner, right? And being the person that's solely responsible for everything within what goes on in your realm. So again, it just brings that whole layer of responsibility that you have to take on yourself. So those are I would say that's the main difference. There's also a lot less corporate bullshit that goes on in high ticket sales that you don't have to listen, you don't have to deal with all these like meetings, diversity meetings, things that just aren't relevant. You can focus on the things that are most important, and that's closing deals or making money, which I think is great. But yeah, I would just say that the biggest thing is just having more responsibility. Like everything's kind of on you and you have to take that responsibility. And if you fail, if you not making deals, that's on you. That's not on anyone else. Whereas like when you're in corporate, you can kind of blame other people and be like, oh, the sales manager's not coaching me enough, or it's all on you. So I think like that's the biggest shift, mindset shift that you have to make when you come into like high ticket sales.
Very well articulated. And I think to bridge off that point a little bit even further, to kind of put the nail in the coffin with that one, what do you feel the compart like the contrasting differences are in terms of skill level of what's required to succeed in corporate versus high ticket sales from what you've seen?
Yeah. I feel like with corporate sales, it depends on how it's taught, right? Because there's usually one way of teaching or like quite a rigid way of teaching, and this is their way, right? And you have to follow the way that they teach. Whereas with high ticket sales, it's very flexible and it's very there's a lot of different coaching styles that you can implement, and again that's up to you to implement which ones you want to use, so it's very fluid in that sense. And I would say that the skill level is higher because you're jumping on like hour phone calls with so many different prospects, you're selling different offers, you're having to deal with a lot of different personalities. So I would say the skill level is like typically higher, I would say. But having said that, in corporate, I imagine that their skill level is also high. But just from my experience, I would say that it's higher within high ticket sales. What's your
Sweet.
opinion on that? What would you say?
I think I've never had to sell through traditional sales person myself. I did retail sales, which I wouldn't really count that. That's not, anything to really write home about. It's not corporate sales either. It's not like you're selling, SaaS solutions or anything crazy like that. I would say what you pointed out there is very, very key. The key difference in terms of responsibility is massive. In terms of skill level, I think it still points to that same aspect that you said before is most corporate salespeople are very comfortable and they don't actually take their job as seriously as someone would in high ticket sales. Typically, the level of training that they've done is very, very, very different. You speak to most people in the high ticket sales space and they've spent, multiple five figures on their sales training. Not always, but they usually have. The statistics, I think, go that most salespeople only spend less than a few $100s on their own personal sales training and development. And while it's their whole entire career and they get paid in direct proportion of the results they bring to the table, most corporate salespeople don't typically invest in themselves, therefore, mostly arrive and work with guys like me with way less training than they actually need. Even though their experience helps them, they're at a very rudimentary level of sales, and that may be hurtful to the ego to hear, especially if like you're in corporate sales right now. And maybe I could just be some guys that's trying to say that to sell you something. Take it with whatever you will. But personally, what I have seen is the main factor that helps you, as you said before, transitioning from corporate to high ticket sales is the fact that you can communicate and articulate yourself clearly with confidence. That's really it. It's because you've spoken to strangers on the phone all day. You've maybe if you're an account executive right now, or you were in the past, you are confident running a process. That is what sets you up for success as opposed to someone starting out. Most people I work with, which is fine, by the way, if you're watching this and you're younger and you have no sales experience, you are starting from scratch. So there's a bit more room of development where you're not as confident articulating yourself. You're not very clear in your communication. And I've noticed since we've last spoke, the way you communicate yourself, Jake, personally, is night and day difference to probably when I first met you over a year ago.
Mm.
And that's a representation of hundreds and thousands of conversations with strangers. So I'd say the biggest benefit you have coming from corporate sales, traditional sales to this is that you can speak well and you're more confident in your ability. Um, Put that into an actual box of structure and strategy of how to sell in this space well. You can do phenomenally well, much faster because you have that confidence within yourself. And a lot of guys that come to me as well who ask that question, maybe you're 25 and you've been an account exec for 2 years or something like that. The high ticket sales space is not going to care about the results you've got in your previous career. They don't care for some reason, but they just don't. It's the way that you carry yourself on interviews that's going to make such a big difference in terms of getting your foot in the door. If you're 18 years old, you've got no experience, you've never spoken on the phone, and you're very shy and introverted, you're going to have to work on that. And that's
Mm.
fine. And we work with a lot of our clients come to us at that stage. But where I think it sets you up for success is just that main key pillar, which is that you can communicate well, which most people who come to me and I work with aren't starting at that stage. They're very, very shy, or they're just not on the punch when their communication skills.
100%. That's why I find it insane when there's so many people in these corporate roles. They have the basic understanding, even if you've been in a sales corporate role for 2 or 3 years, that's 3 years of experience of communicating, talking to people. You probably know the fundamentals, the foundations of sales, how to objection handle, ask good questions. So like coming into a space like this, it's such a good opportunity because you're already, like you said, you are slightly ahead of other people. Of course, there's more skills to learn, but it's such a good opportunity and it's such a different vehicle. Like I went from earning 2K per month, being stuck in one location where I had to pick up the phone every single day, make 150 dials on a list of people that did not want to talk to me. Now I live in Bali. I'm not saying this as like a flex, but this is just like the transition and the change that's possible. And also the I was probably like one of the worst performing people on that team. I was lazy. I didn't really like what I was doing. I wasn't hitting KPIs. Now, like fast forward a year, I've hit 10K per month. I'm living in Bali and I'm very competent at sales. Like my sales skills are very good compared to what they were a year ago. So it's like it's just a vehicle. Like I know people who were way, way better than me when I used to work in that corporate job who would absolutely crush it in this environment with the right vehicle and the right like skills and the right guidance. So yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
insane. You don't take that opportunity.
And at the end of the day, it's about what boat you're in and the vehicle that you're in that's going to be determined on the amount of income that you make.
Mm,
Just as an offer that you would work in corporate sales, the same thing with high ticket sales, the better you get at offer acquisition in combination with your skill level, the more money you make. And even if you're rowing very hard in a boat that's not going to get much traction, which is more like corporate sales, more traditional sales, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter that more faster you row. Like you just have to be in a much more efficient vehicle. And for high ticket sales, for a lot of corporate sales people, it's definitely the thing to go with, based off all the things we've described. And I've seen guys like Rob, who I haven't even filmed a case study with yet. Like he hit like I think it was like 12 to 15K a month in 3 months from car sales because of all the things we just spoke about. It was just the fact that he found a good offer, he communicated himself well professionally, and he had that foundational base of selling well in his company on car sales, going to just super simple conversations over the phone. Now, I don't want to over glamorize it and make it as like too dialed down, but in contrast to the complexity of traditional sales, the way I've seen it, this is way more simpler, shorter sales cycles, typically one call closes. I'm sure that you probably experience yourself on your offer.
mm.
It's not like two, three call closes, five call closes. You don't have multiple decision makers you're dealing with. It just gets rid of a lot of the bloat. And it just means you've got 8 to 10 calls a day, sometimes 10, 11, 12 if you're working really hard. And it's just a massive contrast and difference from traditional, from what I've seen.
Definitely, definitely. And your job strictly is to take calls. Or obviously there's things within that like outbound doing work outside of those calls, but you're not tied down to a time schedule. Like when you're on a 9 till 5, you have to work those 8 hours, right? There's no way you can get out of those 8 hours. You have one lunch break. But realistically, within those 8 hours, you're probably only doing around like 2 or 3 hours work, especially if you're cold calling, right? Whereas like with this, your what you have on your calendar is just what you'll be doing. So you'll be taking calls as soon as you've took calls, that's it, you've clocked off. If you want to clock off for the day, that's it, you don't have to worry about it. Whereas like sometimes when you're in a corporate, you're like twiddling your thumbs, you're trying to figure out like what I need to be doing with my time. Whereas with high ticket sales, it's like I take my call, then I can switch off. I have a no-show, maybe I can go for a break. You just have a lot more, although you're working for a company still, technically, you have so much more autonomy over your day and over your time, which is sick.
Absolutely. And to give the guys, whether or not you're not in corporate sales or you are in corporate sales, I think this would be useful. Just for context, like what do you sell and how do you help people with what you offer?
Yeah, so the offer that I'm on at the moment, it's a AI agency education program. So essentially what we do is we help entrepreneurs, developers, industry experts like build and scale their own AI agencies. So people come in, it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's more so, okay, people are interested in AI. They see the huge potential in it and they want to build a business off the back of it. So what that looks like is they come in and they maybe build a chatbot, a voice agent, and then they provide that as a service or a solution to businesses that have pain points or manual processes within their business. So that's essentially what it is in a nutshell. The main focus is around helping more like sophisticated buyers, like savvy buyers, yeah, like entrepreneurs, people with a lot of experience. But yeah, it's a good offer. It's a really good offer. The marketing is pretty dialed in, which is important.
Yes, very important for a good offer. And to give the guys some contrast as well, like the offers that you sold before with fitness, it's pretty generally self-explanatory. But the dating offer, do you want to tell the guys a little bit more about that? Because that might sound a bit rogue for a lot of people that have never heard of that before. Like, what typically on that offer did you help clients with?
Yeah, so I was on a dating offer for quite a long time, actually. I would say 5 or 6 months. And the whole intention behind that was helping men date or talk to women essentially, and it was more targeting men who were unable to yeah, talk to women, flirt with women. So it was basically a coaching program to teach men how to do that. And yeah, it was good fun, like interesting conversations to have with people. But yeah, you a huge pain point there where you don't realize until you jump on these conversations or these calls that a lot of men can't talk to women, and can't create relationships, which is really sad, right? Because everyone deserves the right to have a partner, and some of these men don't know how to go about it. So the program essentially taught them how to do that. So it provided a lot of value, and there was a lot of pain within these prospects or these people that wanted to solve it. So yeah, it was a very interesting like B2C. But I think B2C is a very good place to start because
Mm.
have a lot of conversations. You have to dig out pain. You have to look at ask them around the consequence. You have to take them through a good process. And I think for me and a lot of people in the space, I think a good transition from that is doing fitness, doing B2C, and then transitioning more to like savvy business people and speaking to those because you become more intelligent. You're having more intelligent conversations, and that reflects better in your the way that you present yourself as well, which I like.
I agree. It's a very good place for most beginner sales reps or even guys who are doing traditional sales, transitioning this. It's a great place to start. A lot of volume, more emotional, and it's just a lot more simplistic sale compared to B2B. There's a lot more logistics. And if you're very new to this, you've never done sales before, just to be super clear, B2C is business to consumer and B2B is business to business. So business consumer, it could be anything to do with like Jake said, helping guys, with their dating life, could be helping people make more money. It could be in terms of making more money, it could be like helping people learn the skill of trading, copywriting. There's a ton of ways that you can make money online. Um, there's a lot of different products and things that you can sell, and I can't think off the top of my mind right now, but there's been some pretty crazy ones in my experience of teaching guys to get started in this space. A lot of different offers out there. So there's a lot of different things you can sell that you'd either enjoy learning about more because it's a problem you struggle with yourself. For example, you want to learn how to generate leads, right? Go work with a coach, that teaches how to generate leads, or business coach, go work with a business coach that teaches businesses how to grow. Learn a lot of skills with that. There's a lot of really, really cool offers you can learn that are outside of just the skills that you get in terms of sales and the commissions. You can learn a lot of really, really cool things, not only from the companies you work within, like the organization that you're working within at the moment, probably working with a really smart founder, really cool culture. You get to learn the ins and the outs of the company, how the sales work, how the back end works, how the fulfillment works. It makes a very, very big difference because ultimately sales is not the be all end all. And you'll want to transition to starting your business in some facet or form. At least 95% of people watching this video. Sales is a transitory step in a vehicle to get to the next step. And so I say there's a lot of use case for people that are looking to start their own business in the future because you learn by proximity of spending time with successful founders, as well as learning and picking up skills and adopting skills from the things that you sell, like lead generation and, you know, whatever else that could support you in starting a business in the future.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great way to see how a business operates and how marketing works, how sales works, how even the fulfillment works, right? It's a good opportunity to see how all of that works. And I imagine we're probably going to touch on this later, but offer is really important. Like being on the right offer is really important. And the offer that I'm on right now has an amazing culture. And when you have an amazing culture within the company, then it sets you up more for success and it makes you want to work harder for the company and it makes you want to earn more money for them. So I think, yeah, that's why that acquisition side of things is so important because yeah, I've been on offers in the past where maybe I haven't vetted them properly and then I've ended up on a wrong offer, like the owner is just not a nice person and it's very easy to do in the high ticket space and that's
Yeah,
why like yeah, vetting an offer is extremely important and then also yeah, being yeah, just very careful with who you're jumping on offers with and making sure that you do your due diligence.
100%. And honestly, we talk about that 100 times in the channel, so we don't even need to cover it. I say it in every video. So I mean, I'm gonna sound like a broken record at that point. But I mean, if you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you would know that I talk about off acquisition is very important. And we've said about a million times why it's important. So you can go see a million other videos that I've talked about that forever. Um,
Yeah.
but something that's probably a bit more juicy, what would you tell someone who's a beginner looking to get started in this space, that's brand new? Like, besides offer acquisition, is there any other suggestions or recommendations you'd give to, you know, younger Jake who is just kind of get started in the industry?
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely say mentorship, get a program, because it's not just the structure and the guidance that's really important. It's also having like a community and accountability. And I think like credit to you, I think that's where your program does really well, the RSA, because the community behind it. Like a lot of people I ended up meeting in real life that are in the RSA, especially when I was traveling. And I think when you're around that types of people, when you see people like Shelly, for example, making like 27K per month, and you see other people making a lot of money through the RSA, it like builds your belief up, right? Because you're in the program and you see these people doing it, and you're like, there's no difference between that person and me. If they can do it, why can't I do it? And I think that's really important to get around that. Like if you try and do this yourself, not only will you not have the accountability and the guidance, but you won't have other people to look at and be like, okay, those guys are doing it, so why can't I? They have the exact same systems that I have, so I should be able to do it too. So yeah, I think mentorship is really important, like really important if you're coming into this, and just not giving up. Like the first month, 2 months, 3 months, it's going to be so difficult, but you're going to learn so much as you keep going, and there's going to be so many things that happen where you just have to have that growth mindset of, okay, how can I learn from this? How can I take responsibility and come back stronger? And I think that's just a case of failure all the time. And that's what sales is. You're getting constantly rejected from offers, you're getting let go by offers, you're not making sales, people are saying no. You just have to keep pushing through that because if you keep pushing through that, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm literally proof of that. Like the amount of times I failed, the amount of times I thought of quitting at least like two or three times. It was like one time when I moved back into my house in the UK and I thought like I'm gonna pack this in. I can't do this anymore. It's so up and down. I've one offer I was working pretty much for free for like a whole month. And you
Yeah.
have those periods, but you just have to keep pushing through because all you need is just one good offer. You land one good offer and you've got a good skill set, then that's it. You're set and you perform, you set, and you can make that 10K per month. So you just have to keep pushing, have belief that it will happen and it will come through. But you just have to work extremely hard and not give up.
Great advice. And for a lot of beginners that are looking into this, I say this time and time again. Statistically, from what I've seen, it takes 6 months to a year to get to 10K a month. You can do it earlier, right? I've seen some guys that pretty much everybody says you can do it in 30, 60, 90 days. far from the truth, from my belief. Look, you can get lucky and you can do that early. I've had guys do that before, but we're talking about the very, very rare few. So the most people that are looking at exploring this, 6 to 12 months of very hard work and a lot of sacrifices. That's just brass tacks is what this is going to take. And I think because of those expectations, that's why so many of my clients do so well, because even with those expectations, it's still really hard, right?
Mhm.
Even though you know it's going to take that long, it's still really difficult and really painful because there's so many times where you shoot yourself in the foot, you fail, you get fired, you work with a bad offer time and time and time again. Every single case study I've ever worked with have always told me they've wanted to quit more than several times while doing it. I wanted to quit a million times while doing it. It's a very, very, very challenging process, but if you can set your motion forth where you can think a little bit more longer term and really stretch the mindset of what can I achieve if I give this my all over the next 12 months, you can do extremely well if you have that expectation. And I think a very big failure of the space is a lot of these marketers that are telling you that it's quick, easy, simple, fast. And in 90 days, that's where everyone goes wrong. And if you can extend your timeline, it's going to make a massive difference. So
100%.
how
Yeah.
how would you say your life has changed, man? You've gone from, living in the UK to now, being able to travel the world with your girlfriend as well, which is amazing. You're living in Bali, which is fantastic. What has that been like? You're working very hard still. You're still working decent hours. You're still working hard at the craft. But what's it been like exploring Bali? What's the glitz and the glam like on the other side?
Yeah, it's been incredible. It's been amazing. Like sometimes I have to like pinch myself because it's not just the things I get to experience. I get to experience seeing amazing places. I get to like wake up every morning in like a really nice villa, but it's also like the financial part as well, just feeling like secure and knowing that you've got good amount of money coming in consistently. You can spend, especially in Asia, right? Like you can spend money on whatever you want and it'll be fine. And that just brings an another level of like confidence within yourself, like knowing that you can just pay for things for like your girlfriend, or you can if you want to stay in a nice place for the week or the month, you can do that. It just brings yeah, another level of security, confidence, and freedom. And yeah, it's just awesome to have that, and being able to travel is such a amazing experience. Like being able to like every weekend, I've pretty much done something or gone somewhere nice. And that's an incredible feeling because at home in the UK, I wouldn't, maybe on the weekend I'd go for like a nice walk, or there's not really much to do. Whereas like on the weekend here, I can go to some islands, or I can like travel somewhere, I can climb a mountain like I did last week. There's just so many things that you can do. That like the travel and living the remote life has allowed me to do, which is just yeah, it's incredible feeling to be able to do that. And it's not just being able to travel, but again, the financial security that comes with it, like the two paired together is, yeah, it's awesome. It's amazing.
That's amazing. And I think the one thing that you perhaps haven't realized just yet is you've unlocked all those amazing things. But to me, climbing the summit of 10K a month is one of the hardest things that anyone will ever do because of the beliefs, mainly beliefs, I would say, because you're fighting against everyone and everything. Your partner, your friends, your family, nobody understands it, nobody gets it. And very few times as well do you have people in person that you can talk to about this stuff. It's very much like your online friends, especially at the community of RSA as well, until you meet them in person, which you have done. It's a very challenging feat, but once you've climbed that hill and once you've climbed that summit, the really, really cool thing that most people fail to realize is that you can go back to zero tomorrow. You can start a business, it can flop violently. You could have everything go wrong. You could have all your money taken away from you. You could lose all your assets. You could lose everything you have. As long as you can get your hands on enough money to get a laptop, you're going to be fine because you
Mm,
know that you can sell, and that even if you were to go work in traditional sales, I'm sure they do remote roles as well. If you know how to get a job and you know how to sell, you're never going to have to worry about where your next dollar comes from again. 10K a month, we can focus on that, but you know you're always going to make enough money to live and survive, which having that skill in itself and having that redundancy plan, that you can't put any amount of money on that. You always have that security in mind. Everything could go wrong, and I'm going to be okay. What
Yeah.
other skills do you actually get that, whether or not you're studying or whatever else, you just nothing compares.
Yeah, yeah, you've always got that skill to lean back on. And it creates a baseline as well. It's like that's the least of what you expect, like 10K per month now. It's like created a new baseline. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, now can't earn under that, which is great because then it sets you up for the future and how much you can earn now. Like I'm so excited for the future in terms of what that's going to look like in terms of investments, my
Yeah.
house and things like that, because I've now created this baseline, which is cool.
And you'll find that now that you've hit 10K a month, it's actually really hard to go underneath it. Just psychologically, it just doesn't compute with you. Now that's your level of baseline. Even if you go beneath it, it's only going to take a few short weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, because now that you've done it, you know you've climbed the summit, you know it's possible. You've already worked the way to get there. All it takes is just walking back up the hill, even if you fall down, right? Which is a very liberating feeling to have. I know every time that I've exceeded a level of income, it's always become my new level of baseline. And then if I want to get back there, I can. So there's kind of really no stress because I've climbed that summit. I've gone through the beliefs, the challenges, I've got the skills to adopt to get to that point. So it doesn't matter what happens. That is now my new baseline if I so wish it to be, which is a pretty
Mm,
powerful thing.
yeah, it's
Um,
awesome.
so you've been working with me for a while now, just over a year. What would you say your general feedback would have been after going through the community for some time now? The training, the support systems, the one-on-one, like what would you say your general feedback would be of like working with me and the RSA in general?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like when I went through rough patches and when I wasn't doing very well in terms of offers, making sales, making money, when I then came back to the program, because sometimes I take periods where I think a lot of people are guilty of this, where they're like, okay, I don't need to go to the coaching calls,
Yeah,
I don't need to sign up. But then when you start turning up to the coaching calls, you then start to see more progress, like funnily enough. And then
yeah,
when you start to turn up to them, it's not just like the coaching and obviously coming to the calls with questions around what's happening on the calls and getting that feedback loop. It's also jumping on and seeing what other people are doing as well. So like seeing people get wins, it creates this focus of being on this path of okay, I need to get to this 10K per month because everyone around me is getting it as well. So I think the group coaching calls very helpful for getting that feedback and just coming along with what's working, what's not working, getting an understanding of why it isn't, and then going away and implementing that in a call straight away. It's like such a fast way to learn and to get better. And even the job acquisition side of things, coming back and being, okay, I didn't land this role because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, next time I would suggest doing this, and then going in and then just doing that and then getting results that way. So it's just this constant feedback. And I'm such a big advocate of mentors and coaches because it's the best way to learn. And if you're able to have that feedback loop, then there's no reason why you can't be successful with it. All you have to do is turn up with the coaching calls and ask questions because whatever you're struggling with, whatever you need help with, can be answered by someone who's already been there and done that. So yeah, it was very valuable for me. The one thing I wish I did was just go to the coaching calls more consistently, especially at the beginning, because I would have fast tracked my whole process. But a lot of the time, you're like, I don't need them, it's fine. But yeah, if you just turn up to the coaching calls, ask questions, you can get to where you want to go a lot faster. And I noticed as well, like the more you turn up to the coaching calls, the more time you give people as well, because you see that they're
yes,
committed, right? So you're like, okay, he's spending time, he's working hard. So I'm gonna like spend time answering like his questions and giving him time. So yeah, it's definitely important to do that.
absolutely. And I find that after spending a quarter million Australian dollars now, I know what that would be in pounds, just to clarify, the Australian pesos, I want to make sure it's Australian dollars, everyone knows. On different courses, coaches, and mentorships. what I have seen is that the major fact that separates people is the people that do show up to those calls and do ask questions. And very rarely do I find that you get into an opportunity or a community the size of RSA where you can still get that type of attention. Typically, you're passed off to a random coach, someone that is like a successful client of the mentor, whatever it is. Usually, a lot of the times you get drowned out, but I think RSA is very much in a unique position and a place where you can get that attention if you are really showing up, which most people don't. You can get massive amounts of feedback, massive amounts of attention from me and the team, because yeah, the bar really is that low, and you're in a position where you can get such close proximity and intimacy with someone who's done what you want to do, which again, I think it's a massive thing that separates us from majority of other things out there. Because fair enough, I understand some people are trying to scale to 500,000 a month, so on and so forth. RSA serves its purpose for what it needs to do, and it will never have that aspect removed from it, which is that one-on-one support and also that attention that you get from me, as I think that's critical as to why we have such great results with most people.
Definitely, 100%. And I also think, like I was talking about earlier, the how realistic you are with it, and that sets the expectations. And when people have realistic expectations, they know what they're getting themselves into. So I think the fact that you come in and go, listen, it's not going to be easy, this is going to require a lot of work, sets a lot of people up for success as well, which I also really liked. And also the diversification of coaches within the community, which I really
Mm,
liked, developed over time. The fact that you had not only you coaching, but then obviously Lucas, you had Jordan as well, created a really good dynamic of like different people to talk to, which was really cool.
yeah, which is fantastic, and I appreciate the feedback. Um, in case it isn't obvious already, how likely would you be to recommend RSA to like a friend or anyone that's looking to get into the high tier sales space?
Yeah, yeah, I would. I feel like I've already recommended like quite a lot of people to it.
Fantastic.
But then
No,
it's more so getting people over the fear of coming into a space which they've never done before is the hardest part, right? And then
yeah.
investing in themselves. But that's your job to do
Absolutely.
that.
That's my job in these interviews, in the YouTube videos, to really get you guys to understand that it is a scary jump. I absolutely understand that. But if there's at this point in time 42 people that have crushed it with this thing, then it's kind of undeniable, I would say, personally, from my point. More results than anyone I've ever seen. Very few people in the Make Money Online space in general have the amount of social proof that we have. So it's kind of like, what are you doing? No.
Yeah, 43, did you say? 43 people.
Yeah, 43 case studies. Yeah, aiming for 60 by end of year.
It's wild. Congratulations.
Thank you. I try my best. But yeah, in case you can use your sales skills a little bit, if someone is sitting on the fence right now who's been watching for a while, like, what would you tell someone who's kind of nervous, they're not too sure whether or not they should take the leap? Like, what would you
Mm.
tell someone who's kind of like here or there?
Yeah, for sure. I would just look at your situation now and look at it and think, am I willing to stay in this current situation or am I willing to take a risk, right? And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, is the idea of taking a risk worse than the sort of worst case scenario of what could happen, like if you took the risk, right? Because I was in a situation where I really didn't like it. I didn't like working in that job, and I would do anything to come out of it. So I think if you're in a position like that, or even if you're just satisfied and you know that there's more out there, like, are you willing just not to take the risk? Like, it doesn't make sense. So I think if you're on the fence and you have nothing to lose, because the worst case scenario, if you come into this, you invest your money and it doesn't work out, you would have learned something in the process and you would have been able to take something from the experience. So and then the best case scenario is that you do land a role, you do make money, and you are able to do this as like a full-time income. So like the worst case scenario isn't even that bad. So yeah, I would just definitely take the risk, because in 20, 30 years time, you'll look back and go, I wish that I'd capitalized on that opportunity. Like, you won't regret that opportunity that you didn't take. So yeah, that would be my advice. Just definitely do it, because the worst case scenario isn't even that bad.
Massive. What's more risky? Currently, what you're doing now, or taking the leap? for most people, doing what they're doing right now is a lot more risky. I know it would have been a lot more risky if I would have been working retail today, 5 years ago, right? Who would have thought? Would have been a crazy different life that would have turned out if I just stuck doing retail and was too scared to take the leap. So, yeah, guys, fantastic interview with Jake. Definitely a lot of value in there if you're looking to transition from traditional corporate sales to high ticket sales. A lot of value and insights from someone who's done it. But yeah, if you guys want to get similar results to what Jake has gotten and you want a similar transformation, there will be a link down in the bio description to apply to see if you are fit to work with us. You may be, you may not be. Me or the team will look at your application and assess if you're a fit. Said it a million times, 43 times to be exact. But if you put why you want to join the RSA as one word like money or thought you were cool, like we will generally assess your application. We do get great results for people because we work with the right people. And that's why we get results. We work with the right people, the right clients. The support system's great. The training system's great. I'm sure that my experience helps quite a bit, but it's the individuals that we work with as to why we get such great results. So if you think you're somewhat like Jake and all the other case studies in the channel, then we may just be able to help you. So it's worth having a chat. We're not going to push you or anything. There's no pressure. If you want to join, you can join, but if not, no harm foul, right? So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview, and yeah, thanks Jake for hopping on.
No worries. Cheers, Connor.
All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one.